So today we're going to learn how to solve equations. So go ahead and title your notes, Solving Equations. And we're just going to cover adding and subtracting equations today. So put a plus sign and a minus sign. And one way to think of equations is, you have an equal sign. So you have something on the left-hand side of the equation, and then you have something on the right-hand side of the equation. And since there's an equal sign in the middle, they're equal. And so one way that we think about this is a balance scale. So you may have seen, especially in science, it's a type of scale. So we're going to draw just a very rough looking picture of a balance scale. No art skills necessary here. So the balance scale has these two little things that you can set stuff on. And then it comes down kind of like this. And then there's something in the middle that kind of holds it all up. So again, very rough drawing of a balance scale. And so this is going to be our equation. So we're going to put an equal sign in the middle. And then we're going to put some stuff. So on Friday in our notes, we did a sample equation. And I'll give you another sample equation for this one. So we're going to draw an X. So I'm going to label this X. And then 2 1s. So that would represent X plus 2. And then on the other side, I'm going to draw 5 1s, which would represent 5, obviously. So our equation here is X plus 2 equals 5. So our goal here, we're going to write this down. Our goal when we solve an equation, this is super, super important. Our goal is to get the variable, in this case it's X, it could be any letter, get the variable by itself. So right now, our X has those 2 1s. You could think of it as X's annoying little brother and sister, and he just wants to be by himself. So we could get rid of them. We could send them off to go play. But what's going to happen to our balance scale is now it's not going to be in balance anymore. If you took off something on one side, the other side is going to go down, and that side's going to go up because now it's lighter. And so the whole thing with an equation is that your scale always has to be balanced. So if you do something to one side, you have to do the same thing to the other side. So because I took off 2 on the left-hand side, I also need to take off 2 on the right-hand side. So that leaves 3. And what that tells us is that X equals 3. Because if X is 3 and then you have 2 more, that's going to give you 5. And so that's why the scale was balanced, because each side had 5. So something we know about adding and subtracting is they are called inverse operations. And that means that they cancel each other out. So we're going to write that. Addition and subtraction cancel each other out. Okay, so I'm going to give you 2 example problems. One's going to be adding, one's going to be subtracting. So the adding one is going to be X plus 2 equals 9. So this is an addition equation because it has a plus sign in it. And we said subtraction will cancel that out. So if I subtract 2, that's going to cancel out this plus 2. It's kind of like 0 pairs when we were doing integers. So that's going to cancel out. But remember what we said with our balance scale. If you do something to one side, you have to do it to the other side. So if I subtracted 2 on the left-hand side, I have to subtract 2 on the right-hand side. So since the plus 2 and the minus 2 canceled each other out, that left just x by itself. And then on the right-hand side, 9 minus 2 is 7. So that tells us that x equals 7. But you always want to double check your answer, and it's super easy. You should never get an equation problem wrong because checking it is so easy. So here's how we're going to check. We're going to rewrite the original equation, but this time instead of x, since we know it's 7, we're going to plug in 7. So instead of x plus 2, we're going to write 7 plus 2 equals 9. Now, 7 plus 2 does equal 9, so we know that we were right. But if we had just written down 6 plus 2 equals 9, then 6 plus 2 is 8, so that wouldn't be true. That means we made a mistake when we were solving our equation. So make sure that it actually does equal what it was supposed to equal. Okay, let's try another one. I'm going to use a different variable this time. So I'm going to say n, and we're going to do subtraction. So n minus 3 equals, and we're going to do a negative this time because sometimes you're going to see negatives. So n minus 3 equals negative 1. Okay, so this is a subtraction equation, and so we're going to use addition this time. You always want to use the inverse operation. So what cancels out minus 3 is plus 3. And remember that if we do that to one side, we have to do the same thing to the other side. So the minus 3 and the plus 3 are going to cancel each other out, leaving just n. Okay, so here's where we have to remember our integer rules. We have negative 1 plus 3, or you could also think of it as negative 1 or 1 negative and 3 positives. It means the same thing. So we have different signs here. Different signs, we find the difference, which is 2, and we have more positives, so it's positive 2. Okay, so again, you might mess up more on one that is an integer problem, so you would definitely want to do the checking step. So I'm going to plug in 2 minus 3, and it's supposed to equal negative 1. So 2 minus 3 does equal negative 1, but if you want to make sure, remember with subtraction we can box it. So that's a positive 2 and a negative 3. Different signs, we find the difference, which is 1. There's more negatives, so it is negative 1. So we know that we were right on that. Okay, so make sure you have all of these notes written in your notebook. And if you need to pause the video or go back through it, please do that. And then go ahead and watch the next video for the practice problems.